morning. Welcome to day 2 of the SharePoint conference. I want you all to know that we have free first-class upgrade seats in the front, so if anybody wants to come forward, come on forward. They're all freely available. I'm excited to be here today. It's great to be able to get the opportunity to share with you all what we've been working on and have conversations and learn from you. Today, in this session, we're going to focus on employee engagement across SharePoint, Yammer, and Stream. In the breakout sessions that probably you've been attending yesterday and today, there's a number of deep dive sessions on each of these products, SharePoint, Yammer, and Stream. In this particular one, we're going to take a scenario-focused approach around employee engagement across these 3 products and talk about how you can build integrated experiences across SharePoint, Yammer, and Stream to engage and inform your employees. My name is Andy Haon. I work on SharePoint experiences. I'm joined by several of my colleagues.
Hello, check. Hi, I'm Vishal Sood. I'm the product owner for Microsoft Stream.
I'm Jason Mayans. I'm the group product manager for the Yammer team.
And I'm DC, and I'm going to be showing you guys how all of this comes on stage live, and I work for Andy in SharePoint.
Great, thanks. So most of this session is going to be demos. We got a few slides to cover. I'm going to do a little bit of framing up front about how we think about employee engagement. You heard about it as one of the major pillars yesterday in the keynote. I'm going to then come down to a bit of the 4 major areas that we see around employee engagement. I'm going to do an opening demo that shows you some of the finished experiences we've been able to build over the last week. And then we're going to have Vishal, Jason, and DC each dive into details to show you how we built those experiences. And we're also going to go deep in a few key areas around each of these products. So yesterday in the keynote, Jeff talked about the intelligent workplace. We outlined and showed 3 major elements of that. Teamwork, Teamwork and business process, employee engagement and communications, and search and content intelligence. And so as we think about employee engagement and communications, there's 4 major areas that we work on. We think about leadership engagement, where leaders can inspire, guide, and align and inform their organization. We think of corporate communications as a key partner in this process, and in this talk, we're going to talk about 3 major personas. Of course, employees, who we all want to engage and inspire and motivate with these experiences. Corporate communications, who has a critical role in a number of these areas. And then IT professionals and our developer partners who help build some of these experiences. The second major pillar is employee communications. How do you share news? How do you share updates? How do you keep the broader organization informed? Yesterday also at the keynote, Seth talked about the notion of individual rolling out to teams and working together in teams, and then the broader organization. This is really how do you keep your individuals and your teams informed with what's going on in the organization, what are important developments, how do they understand what the strategy is, what the culture is, how do you get them inspired to motivate them? The third is open sharing, learning, and innovation. I think open sharing and learning is a key part of what Yammer brings, working out in the open, having conversations in the open, finding expertise is a core part of all of these products. So sharing and developing knowledge, we think of that varying from new employees who might be early in their career, new to the organization, learning about what the organization's all about, all the way to people that have been in the organization or been in the area for a while and have deep expertise that you want to connect people to. And then the fourth part is participation and inclusion. How do you foster that connectedness? How do you have a culture that can transform to be open and contributing and bringing other people in and bringing the best minds that are possible? When you look at some of the studies that are out there, Gallup has a pretty large study on this that says that overall around the world, about 15% of employees are defined as engaged in their work. But in the top companies, you have 70% of employees engaged, and profits are 21% higher in that. There's some additional studies that all basically conclude that if you can drive employee engagement up higher, business results and business outcomes follow. So sales, revenues and profits, customer experience, customer satisfaction, employee recruiting and retention improve, and we know it costs a lot to bring on new employees and to train them up. So we think this really does drive key business outcomes for our organizations. So now I'm going to start and move over to do a quick demo here for Where's my label? Sorry, 1, okay. Okay, great. So here I am at the new home site of our Contoso Electronics demo tenant. We call this the landing, and we unveiled home sites, which is the project our team's been working on for some time yesterday in the keynote. And this gives me the top-level landing experience for my company's intranet. We built this with the idea that it's a great place to come and see what's going on collectively in the organization, and also have content that's personally relevant to me, and content that will be targeted to me based upon audiences that I'm a member of. If I do a quick walkthrough of this, you'll see familiar elements like a very beautiful, fast layout page. We've got news here in the top, and we've recently rolled out organizational news, and you can see that that is specifically badged with the leadership connection and Contoso News. We also, when you create an organizational news site, will distribute that content to the SharePoint mobile app and the new SharePoint start page. So that's a key way to distribute important information out to the broader organization. I've got Stream integrated right in here in this site, so we can look at town halls, we can look at recommended videos for me to consume. For many of our employees, video is the key content type that helps me really gather information and consume information in a way I want to. So this is right top and center. It integrates the best of Stream's experience right into SharePoint, and Vishal's going to go deeper into that in a few moments. We've got conversations from Yammer right in there, alongside Twitter. So this is kind of a social and conversation, both external and internal, that I can look at. This is a full full Yammer Conversations web part. So I can, as you can see, I can reply, I can like things here, I can interact right with this content, and I can see more if I want to. Further down, I've got another beautiful array of important links and things that I can engage with in the site. And then I'm going to go back to the top, and I'm just going to point out a new capability that we're introducing, and that is the vertical column on the right-hand side. So in Contoso, we're using the countdown web part, which is a new web part that we've rolled out that allows me to know a big event that's key for me to be informed about. We could use this both at a global intranet level or at a targeted team level. And I'm in a moment going to show a different persona of a retail manager that can use this in her work. And then I've got other key information that keeps me up to date. We've got a weather web part, so I know that it's partly sunny in Redmond, the Contoso stock ticker. And then as I go down, we've got what we call the MeSpace web part. So these are web parts that are scoped to current user. DC is going to show that later, how you do that. So I've got access to my documents, my frequent sites, recommendations for me, and even a team calendar. When we've done our research on home sites, one of the key things to help drive engagement back into those sites has been this blend of things that are for all of us, the kind of we space concept, and things that are personalized to me so that I know I can get back to information that's important even in the top-level intranet site in my company. We can also layer on audience targeting capabilities, and DC is going to show you some of the details of how we can do that. To target not just individuals and not just the collective we, but groups using AAD groups in AAD to define and target content to particular group entities. So that's a quick look at the landing top level. And if I use our new mega menu to go to who we are, I also want to go to the leadership connection site. So this would be a site as an employee where I'd go to see what's going on with my senior leadership. As I mentioned in some of those studies, in North America, two of the biggest things that can drive employee engagement, it varied a little bit by region, but in North America, the two biggest were connection to strategy and senior leadership and enabling infrastructure, where enabling infrastructure is defined as the tools, technologies, and processes to do my job when work is increasingly complex. So we think this enabling infrastructure of being able to build these capabilities out of the box with SharePoint, Stream, and Yammer helps drive a platform for you to go and build these experiences to engage your employees. So here I've got the hero web part. Again, a very visual way for me to grab attention and keep people posted. We've Patty Fernandez, our president, giving a quote here that uses to inspire us about what our culture and mission is. News, I can see that Miriam Graham over here has just joined as Contoso's new chief marketing officer. So that's a great way for me to know what's going on with the senior leadership team. We've got a new member. And then we do Q&As in Contoso. So here's the monthly Q&A using Stream. I can play that right in line and even go to an embedded form within the Stream video, within SharePoint, and complete that to give sentiment analysis and give feedback. So I can go ahead and say, yes, I do absolutely accept Patty's challenge to think broadly, and reply to that. So embedded form in Stream, in SharePoint, and gives me the ability to really kind of engage with that content and have video content right in line. In addition, we've got other town halls here, previous town halls and other leadership videos, Yammer conversations again, and then upcoming events. So a site that we were able to build all with out-of-box SharePoint web parts, integrating experiences across Microsoft 365, built this in a matter of days, not months. Let me go over to one last one and show you a slightly different persona here. And that is for me as a retail manager. So now we're kind of bubbling down into the organization. We've come from our top level home site, the landing, to a leadership connection site for senior leadership to engage to the broader audience. And now I'm at a retail level. So this is really a site that was built for retail store managers in an outdoor store that's a large distributor of outdoor products through a retail environment. Again, we can use that countdown web part to give us a sense of what the big initiative is and how we're tracking as far as time for that. We're aggregating news across different sites here. DC is going to show you some of the capabilities. Also yesterday in the session on intranets, Debjani had shown that. So you can build the ability to source content for news from different sites into this site so that my various retail sites can bring content in to keep me informed as a retail manager. If I go down again, we've got Yammer Web part, so I can see what our employees are saying about our retail environment. We're in the process of changing out our inventory for the season, so we can get a sense of both how we're tracking on that, if there's any issues that are coming up, if there's key things that we need to pay attention to. As a retail manager on the right-hand side here, I see I've got suggested training that can be recommended for me using the highlighted content web part, one of the very powerful web parts we make available, and in this case we're using for a suggested training scenario. And then again, events and what's coming up, along with a connection to different content and different capabilities, along with upcoming town halls. And then finally, we did build one custom web part in this whole demo of what I've shown you. Everything else is completely out of box. And this was one that we built quickly just to show an example of being able to track inventory and what's going on with inventory and deliveries across my district's retail stores. So here's one that just gives me a card-based view with the ability to interact and see what's going on across my region and get feedback from people out in the retail outlets. So that's just a quick overview of 3 sites, the top level, the landing home site, a leadership connection, and then from the persona of an employee, a retail manager, for some of the capabilities for employee engagement. I showed you just a quick highlight of capabilities for Stream. What I want to do now is have Vishal go deeper into some of those, so I'm going to bring Vishal on and hand off to him.
Thank you, Andy.
We are at 10 o'clock, 15 minutes.
Hi again. I'm still Vishal. Maybe I'm lying. Actually, I'm Jordan Miller now for the rest of the demo. So we'll get into that. So before we get into the demo, just wanted to spend a few minutes on why video. Why is video important? So and as Seth talked about this a little bit in the keynote, the way we work is kind of changing. So what we are fast seeing is the kind of people or the demographics of people at work are changing. They expect engagement to be more authentic. They want to see their leaders. Also, work is getting geographically dispersed. So they want to keep all the people across all geolocations in sync. So video comes in pretty handy. Also, there's like some scientific evidence that video improves your cognition of content way better than text. So in this case, it's saying 60,000 times better. So as you can imagine, human brain tends to avoid cognition load. So video actually works great for that reason as well. So not only is it authentic, it's not only is engaging, it's also better content in terms of grasping the intent of the content. So today I'm going to talk about 4 things here. So this is basically showing Microsoft Stream as a tool for using video in your leadership and employee engagement scenarios. The first thing I will do is, as corporate comms manager, our job is to help organize content, source content, and kind of keep it in a single place. So I'll walk you through how to do that from scratch. Then it's about engaging. So Andy gave a sneak peek at forms, so we'll see how we do that actually with Stream. And the third thing is sharing. So a key part of Stream is, yes, you can go to the video portal, but we know people's interactions with video portals tend to be transactional. So they go there if they need to find some information, and then they come out of it. But they actually spend a lot of time in things like SharePoint sites, Yammer Groups. So we want to take video to where people are and serve them video in the context of what they are doing. That's when the real power of video comes in. And unlike some other services, we are not motivated to kind of help people watch the entire video. What we are getting is help people get the right information from the video. So we do a bunch of things around that, and I'll talk about that. And finally, creation of content. So there are like two broad scenarios we see in this use case. One is like spontaneous content, and I'll show you how we do that. And the other is highly produced content like live events and stuff like that, and we'll talk a little bit about it, and then Jason will come and talk more about that. Okay? With that, I'll just jump right into the demos because they tend to be more interesting. Okay, so I am here. If you can see where I am. There you go. So I'm on the Stream homepage here. So I think if you are familiar with Stream, you probably have seen this homepage many times. So I'm not going to spend too much time here. As I said, I am Jordan Miller. So Jordan Miller is a corporate comms manager, and he is responsible for Patty Fernandez's content. So what I did is I actually have a group here, which I'm going to go to, which is called Leadership Group. So Stream leverages Office 365 groups. So in this case, I did not create this group in Stream, but I did actually create it in Yammer because I wanted to get a community going, and it just showed up in Stream because all of us are connected with the Office 365 backbone. So now, as you can see, this is a great group for leadership connection, but it has no content, so it's obviously not great, right? So I'm going to do a few changes first. Since this is the corporate comms group, I'm going to go here, and if you see, you can easily create a group from the top down as well, but in this case, the group was pre-created. But I absolutely want very few people to contribute content into the group, and vast majority of people to consume content. So that's why I created a public group, but I am going to turn this flag off, which basically means only group owners like Jordan and a few other colleagues of mine can actually upload content into this group, but the entire company can watch it without having to join it. So the next I'm going to do is I'm going to create a couple of channels because I want to organize content. Like just a flat list of content is not that fun. So I'm going to create a quick channel here, and I'm going to call it Town Halls. I can pick an image. I can give a description. In this case, I am not going to do that for time reasons. I'm going to create one more channel. Let's say updates and launches. Okay, and that's it. So now I have two channels, but I still don't have any content. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to find content to add to this group. So I know I just uploaded the recent town hall to Stream, so it's sitting right there. So I just go to my content and look at my videos, and I can see the town hall here. I can click on this icon here, which is Add to Group and Channel, and I can search for leadership because that's the group I was in. And if you see, it shows me the group, and it also shows me the channel. So this is a town hall video, so I'm just going to add it to town hall's channel in that group, and I'm going to make the group the owner. So what this does is anybody who's an owner in that group can now own this video. So that way, if I leave the organization, this content is not abandoned, and if somebody else needs to make changes, they can. So with a few clicks now, I've added this content to that group. So next up, what I'm going to do is, I know I have another colleague whose name is actually Vishal. This is a poor joke, but that's how it ended up. So anyway, so I'm going to go look for Vishal now because he has a couple of videos which I also need to add to this group. So I can go to Discover here, and Stream has people search built in. So I'm going to go into People and look for Vishal. So I'm going to find him here, and I can now see all the videos and channels from Vishal, and I can find his videos easily. This is also pretty cool if somebody you meet in the corridor and somebody tells you that, oh, I just uploaded a video, and then you say, can you please send me a link? And that never happens because that person almost always forgets. But now you can look up that person, go find that content, and consume. In this case, I'm going to do the same thing again. These are kind of launches and stuff like that, so I'm going to add them to the leadership group again, but I'm going to add them to a different channel. Okay? Once again, I'm going to make them the owner, and I'll do the same thing for this one as well because this is pretty interesting too. Okay? There we go. And one last thing. So I know there was a video somebody uploaded about marketing opportunity, and I think that will be great to showcase on the site, so I'm just going to go look for that video. I'm going to go to Discover Videos again, and I know it was recently uploaded, so I'm going to sort this list by publish date. And what you see here is Contoso marketing opportunity. I'm going to add this one to that group as well. Updates and launches, and click Add. So now, let's go back to the group and see what happened. So we'll go back to leadership. This started off pretty empty, and now we have some content in here. So let's just look at that as well. So we have about 3 videos. We have a few channels. So now this group is starting to fill up. So you can now imagine you can create multiple channels. You can keep adding content, and people can consume it. But one more thing I want to do is I want to actually highlight the recent town hall at the top of this homepage, because that's what I want to put people's attention on. So I'm going to click on Manage Spotlights. And here, I already have one, so I'm going to delete that. I'm going to add another one. So I'm going to look for Town Hall, which is the video. There we go. Sorry. And now I can start pinning content to the top of the homepage. So now this lets me pick what exactly I want to show to the people. So that way, this doesn't, otherwise it'll be filled up with trending content, which is people are watching. But in this case, I really want everybody watching that content. So that's kind of that. So I'm kind of good with that now. So this group starts looking good, and you get the idea. I can keep building upon this, but I think the use case is clear. So now what I'm going to do is, oftentimes when you do something like a town hall, you almost always are equally interested in how did that content actually land with my employees. So you want to know that. And then typically what you do, after the town hall is over, you get a fancy email saying, can you please take 5 minutes of your time to do this survey? And I bet you most people don't even take that survey because it's just not in their workflow anymore. Email is already noisy, and that survey gets lost. So what I'm going to do here is go back to that video. So I'm going to do something interesting. So sorry, the town hall video, not this one. My bad. OK. So I'm going to town hall video. And I know there was a referral program announced in this town hall. And referral is for me to find new partners that Contoso can work with, and then employees get a bonus if they find a partner. So I want to see now and add a form to understand how did this land with the people. So now I can actually watch the video. In this case, it's only 18 minutes, but town halls can get pretty long. So instead of doing that, I'm just going to search for referral here. So this is Stream, takes all the audio in the video, converts it into text, and makes it searchable. So if I hit Enter here, you can see all the places referral was mentioned in the video. So now I can just click on that place and go to that point. So I think the audio is going to be turned off here. So while this seeks, which is slow, I'm going to go back to forms. And I've already created a form called the referral program. So if you just look at this form, it's very simple. What do you think about a new bonus program? And I'm going to just grab a link to this form. OK. I'll go back to Stream here. So this is already playing, and we'll pretend it's kind of right here that I want to put a form. I will now see the interactivity tab. So this is rolling out. It should roll out in a week or so for most of us. And then I can just quickly add new, paste the link to the form, and just specify what this is. This is the referral form, and then add it to the timeline. So if I seek a little bit further away, you'll see this form is now added to the video. So with just a few clicks, I can actually get inline feedback from people and kind of make this way more useful than kind of sending an email out and then doing stuff like that. So the next thing is, so this is great. So I can keep adding more forms if I need to and then get feedback from that. And the results go into Microsoft Forms. And then I can build flows on that, do reporting on that, and kind of report it out later. Because the other thing I want to do as a corporate comms manager is send leader a report of how the content was consumed. So now I can do some of that with real-time engagement. So the next thing, as I mentioned earlier, it's great that we have this video on Stream, and people can come here and find it. We can even share links with people. But the key part here is sharing content and taking content to where people are. So Andy already showed how you can embed Stream videos on SharePoint, so I won't repeat that. But I'll do a slightly different thing. I'm going to share this video on Yammer. So if I click here, and you see there's a Yammer share button, I could also copy the link and just paste it on Yammer, but I'm going to use this option this time. So I go here, and I can share this to the leadership group. So this is the beautiful part about relying on Office groups, is that group already exists in Yammer, because that's where I created. So I don't have to create the group. Permissions are the same, and everybody is the same person. So I'm going to just post this to Yammer. So that's it. The post is done. Now I can go back to Yammer, which is in a different tab here, and I can click on the leadership content. So now you see the link I just posted is actually playing inline in Yammer. So this is, once again, great, easy for engagement for people. and I can now watch this video. And not only that, I can do another thing here, which is I just clicked on the search icon in the bottom here, and this text box popped up, and I can search for the same referral here, and I can now deep search within the Yammer control. So this is also very powerful. Once again, our primary job is to help people be more productive. So if they can find content even in the embedded scenarios faster, consume the relevant part of the content, that's a great outcome for us. Okay? So then finally, I'll switch gears a little bit once more, and I'll go into creation. So as I mentioned earlier, there are two forms. We have seen two spectrums of content creation. One is the spontaneous one, and it's increasingly catching on. So what leaders now want is, I was in a situation, or I was in a store visit, or I was in a factory visit, and I suddenly found a very cool scenario, which is like all the employees get together, and I want to now take a quick video with the employees and share with the rest of the company. That actually makes the employees in the store and the site feel a part of the company, and it also kind of gives fresh content for people to watch and kind of know what I'm doing all the time. So in this case, I'm going to switch over to the Stream mobile app. Okay. Let's try this once more. Okay, let's see this. A dongle change, that's what's required, I guess. No. Okay, so that doesn't look like it's going to work. So now what I'm going to do is the second best thing, which is stand on the stage about 100 feet away from you and show you the real mobile app. That's going to be awesome, right? So here's our mobile app. I have a Stream app here. I'm going to click on that. And what I'm going to log in really quickly, single sign-on, it's all AD authenticated. And you'll see this new plus icon, and thankfully we showed it in the keynote, so it's hopefully not a lot of. So now you see it as a record new option, record new video option. So I am going to pretend I'm in the store visit. I'm going to get into the selfie mode, and all of you are the store employees. We're going to say hello, and then I can just quickly capture the video. I can trim it if I want to, and I can hit use video, and it just uploads the video. So now, with just a few clicks, I can actually create content and stay current with, help people stay current with what I'm doing, and the company kind of feel energized about it. Also, on the other end of the spectrum, as I talked about, we do support live events in Stream and Microsoft 365. So you could actually go and set up an equipment on a camera just like the stage is, and actually record the leader in a pre-created setting and actually have really highly produced content as well. So with that, I'm going to invite Jason Mayans here, who's going to talk a little bit more about the live events in the context of Yammer, and also show you some really cool things in live that we are going to show you for the first time today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Vishal. Yeah, let's try this. Give us 1 second here and make sure we can solve our technical issues. So. All right. So how many of you, I'm wondering, are using Yammer today to foster conversations between leadership in your organization and employees? Raise your hand if you are. Okay, a few hands up, that's great. So what I'm going to talk about today is really for the rest of you who aren't. So what we want to do is connect leaders and employees together in conversation in order to build strategic alignment in the organization, in order to help define the culture of the organization, in order to build community, in order to retain knowledge. Leaders in an organization want to understand the pulse of the employees. What are they thinking? What's on their minds? And employees want to understand that their work that they are doing ladders up to a higher purpose. And we believe that having open conversations between leaders and employees helps foster and create this environment. So within Yammer, we've got a number of tools that help foster these kinds of conversations. We, of course, have discussions where employees and leaders can discuss issues and strategy, communicate, debate, provide feedback. We have the ability to have structured questions and answers where employees can ask questions of leadership and leaders can engage, provide answers. We have the ability to host events in Yammer, and events and video, as Vishal was just talking about, we think a very important way to engage employees. And when you add Yammer on top of that, you can combine really video with discussion together. And then all of these capabilities as well can be surfaced and integrated with your SharePoint communication sites. So that's what I'll show here at the end. But I'm going to flip over to demo to show you some of these capabilities that we have. All right. So are we up? We're up. Great. So this, of course, is a group that we've created within Yammer focused on leadership connection. So the idea here is this is a place where leaders and employees can come together to have discussions. And you can see, of course, we've got a number of discussions in here. One of the ways, of course, that these posts can be more engaging is through embedding video. So here I have a stream video URL that was posted. You saw Vishal reference this. And the other thing that I have here is a rich text discussion, a description of what's going on in this video. So one of the new capabilities that we've added to Yammer very recently is the ability to have these rich text discussions, which is really kind of a better way to be able to express ideas. And I'm not being very creative here, but you get the idea. I can bold, I can italics, I can add links, and I can really format the ideas to make them easier to communicate. So a couple of the other types that we have in Yammer to drive engagement that you may not be familiar with. If I scroll down here, you can see that one of the things that Yammer can provide is the ability to poll. So one of the ways to engage users in these discussions, create a poll, ask a question, and get answers from your employees and get feedback. Another way to really build culture is to use Yammer to praise people publicly. So this is something that actually at Microsoft we really like to do. When somebody does a great job, when a team does a great job, public recognition is a great way to create culture and an environment where everybody's contributions are valued. And so if you're in a Yammer group, you can see up here at the top that we have these different types of posts you can create: updates, questions, polls, praises. If I select a praise, I can choose someone to praise from the organization. I can choose a different icon, etc. It's just another rich way that you can interact between leaders and employees. Something else that I want to call out in Yammer is the ability to have announcements. So updates are just regular conversations that happen within a group. Announcements are kind of more structured conversations that you want to make sure that all the employees who are part of this group receive. So, I may have an announcement. Let's see, we just bought a new company. Okay, something. And talk about why did we buy it, etc. Because I want to make an announcement to the employees about a new acquisition that we made. And when I post this, it gets an emphasis in the group. And another important thing happens. If an employee does not happen to come to the Yammer group to see this announcement, the announcement is actually mailed out to everybody who is a part of this group. They'll receive that email, they can click on that, and they can respond and have the conversation back in Yammer. Because often you do a large company announcement, you may send that out in email, but being able to have the employees actually reply and engage in email, generally not something you want. By using Yammer to do those kinds of announcements, though, you can drive engagement that happens in a conversation in Yammer, but isn't interruptive to everyone else. And one of the key ways you can actually do this is by setting up the leadership connection group using an AAD, Azure Active Directory dynamic group. So it's possible through Azure Active Directory to set up a group that is essentially a query that might include all your employees in the organization or everybody in a particular division. And by combining that and the announcements feature, you can have some of these more large-scale conversations with employees, but still ensure they get a notification in their inbox. Now, Another way that we see leaders engaging with Yammer is through doing what we like to call Yam Jams. We call them Yam Jams because we like to add Yam to everything in the Yammer team. But effectively, AMAs are Ask Me Anything events during a particular fixed time period. We've also seen for very globally dispersed organizations doing things that are like 24-hour around the world events, where at 10 o'clock in your local time zone, the leaders of the organization are there and available to answer your questions. And this is something that we've seen organizations use really successfully to drive engagement and discussion between leaders and their employees. Now, let's say that you are doing one of these events around the world, and you have thousands of employees, each in different time zones, making posts and asking questions. If you're doing that, you probably have a team gathered to help answer those questions as they come up. So you probably have a communications team, maybe a couple of executives around, people from different departments, because questions could come up from any area. So how does that team work together to answer those questions? One of the ways that they can do that is by actually integrating Yammer within teams. So here I've got teams for my organization, and I've got a corporate communications group, a team and team. And this corporate communications team is the one that's really focused on answering all the questions that are coming in from the employees. And so what they can do is have a tab. So here's a leadership connection tab that includes that leadership connection community within Yammer and the latest posts. And they may see something that they want to figure out how to answer. So someone may have a question or a comment. Okay, so what is the timeline for implementing the new diversity hiring process? So perhaps the person gets here and they're not exactly sure what the timeline is yet, or it hasn't been announced. So they can click on here and they can say, let me share this to the Teams channel. Do we have a timeline announced yet? Great. And they can share. And then when they go back to the conversation here within Teams, you can see that that's actually been shared into the channel. Do we have a timeline announced yet? Here's a reference to the Yammer post. And the communications team can discuss here and chat in Teams, figure out how they want to answer, and then go back to Yammer and provide the answer publicly. And this is really a way that you can see us taking the best of Teams in terms of being a great place for people to work together closely on something, with the best of Yammer in terms of being a outer loop communication tool focused on leadership engagement and communities, and really marry those two together. So continuing on, in my leadership connection group here, I'm going to go back up to the top. You can see that I have an employee town hall going on and a live event. Actually, though, before I jump into that, I wanted to mention one more thing. So let's say that you go do this round-the-world event. You have all your employees commenting, and then you want to understand what has actually been the employee engagement with leadership. So we have a couple different capabilities in Yammer for you to be able to see that. As you can see on these different threads that we have scene counts. So that'll tell you how many different employees have actually read or engaged in that particular thread. Another capability that we have built in is Group Insights. So I can go here and I can switch. I can see, last 28 days or last 7 days, or I can download more detailed data. Tells me more about how many people have interacted, posted messages, liked, read, etc. So it gives me a way to both have those conversations across the organization, but also to be able to track the impact and engagement. Okay, so now back to the employee town hall. So I can see right here that there's actually an active live employee town hall going on. Two ways I can see that. I'm in the group, and there's this banner here. Second, over on the left, we've got an indicator of any group where there's a live event happening. So I'm going to go ahead and tap on that. And Vishal was showing part of this experience before with a video playing within Yammer. But the thing that I really want to show is how you can add conversation to this within Yammer. So below, we've got some structured conversations. We've got people asking questions. And you can see here that there's two types of items that I can create. I can create a question, or I can create a comment. And I can ask questions either in an event like this, or I could be asking questions in a group in general. But I'm going to show you how that actually works in an event. So I can go ahead and ask a question. When is our stock price going to go up, please? Okay. And post that. And you can see that that's actually now marked in this stream, in particular, as a question. And then the way that that gets used later, a couple of different ways. First of all, you can filter within an event. So if I'm somebody managing this event, someone that feels responsible for going through and answering some of these questions, I can filter and I can see everything, is what I'm seeing right now. I'm seeing comments and questions here. Or I can go filter and I can say, show me all the questions that have been asked, or show me questions that are remaining that have not been answered. So unanswered questions. So what does it mean to answer a question? Well, in this case, you can see Megan asking, well, how are the new tariffs affecting our business? There were a couple of answers here, and one is marked as the best answer. So this particular question has been answered, and either the original person who posted the question said, no, this is the best answer, I really want to mark that, has done that, or an owner in the group has actually marked this as best answer. And so you can see another example here where there's a question that has not been answered, and there's a couple different answers here. This first one seems okay. How are we ensuring fair working conditions for our employees? This first one's okay. The second one is just kind of a comment. But the third one is much more detailed. It has a link to the policy, details about when that was implemented. So this is clearly the best answer to this question. So in this case, Megan asked the question. Either Megan or a group owner can go mark that as best answer. It gets tagged as best answer. And then when Megan comes back to this item later, or anybody else comes back to this item later in the organization, it's this best answer item that is actually highlighted and called out. So employees can go directly to the answer here that is most complete. So let me jump back to the main leadership group here just for a minute. I'm going to, as you can see, once I'm attending that video and that video is playing, as I jump throughout Yammer, if I want to engage in other conversations, it's there for me as a nice overlay. But I'm going to go ahead and close that now. Now, if I'm a group owner, I may want to go create a new live event. So I want to create a new event within Yammer. So I click right here. And you can see that we offer a couple types of events within Yammer that can be hosted here. So there's two types called out. The first type is you really have a production staff that's getting together to do a highly produced event. They have great equipment. They have streaming equipment. It's something that you've invested in with a team, and it's probably for somebody pretty important at your organization. So you're using external equipment to do this broadcasting, and you are sending a video stream into the stream service in order to do that. So that's what this first choice is. The second choice is Yammer can also host events that are backed out of Microsoft Teams. So perhaps you don't have this equipment, this staff to do the high level of production, but you still want to run a basic event. You can do the event production, the recording, within Microsoft Teams, and you can post that to Yammer so people can discover it and have a discussion around it. So this is a new capability that we've added in here to bring more of this experience directly into Yammer. So if I select this first item, then I can actually go within Yammer. I can set up this event, give it a title, time, etc. Go ahead and schedule that. And once I do that, it's going to give me all an event page, and it's going to give me all the details that I need in order to be able to start an event stream for my production requirement, all within Yammer, but based on the stream video service. So that is two types of events that we have right now. But of course, we hear from a lot of people that that's great, but I also want something that's very quick, easy, using my mobile device. And so we are building on top of the stream infrastructure to be able to do a live video experience. I've actually got my device sitting right here. That's why you see the beautiful stuff on my desk here. But to do a live video experience directly from a phone into Yammer with conversation and content around this. So this is something that we're working on right now for the future, but really want to call out that we are really targeting this full range of video experiences from highly produced to something you can do within Teams, to eventually something you can drive directly on your phone. Again, all based on the same stream infrastructure. Speaking of the mobile device, I want to switch over to this device and call out a couple other things that we are doing here on mobile. So employees can engage with Yammer, certainly not only in the web experience that I've been showing, but on their mobile devices. So I think this time we'll be able to get this going, hopefully. Awesome, it's up. So this is the Yammer Mobile App. How many of you have actually ever used the Yammer Mobile App? Please, somebody. Okay, well, there's a few folks out there. That's great. So the Yammer Mobile App enables you, again, to access all of the Yammer groups that you're a part of and engage with your feed. So this is my feed across all of those groups. Obviously see notifications, see new items in my Yammer inbox that I might want to check out. But I can use this to drill into particular groups. So I'm going to drill into that leadership connection group. And you can see once again that same employee town hall that I was showing on the web experience is also here on my mobile device. So I can go in and attend that event as a mobile user as well. And the conversation is also right there for me. You can also see the little thumbnail as I scroll. So I can add questions. If I go hit this in the upper right, I can add a question. It's a question type you can see at the top, or I can add a comment, and get that kind of same experience directly here on Yammer Mobile. So I just wanted to call out that whether your employees are sitting at a desk, have a laptop, have a browser, they can engage in these conversations with leadership, but they can also engage with these conversations on iPhone or Android mobile experiences. So to bring this to kind of a close here, so I've shown these capabilities for conversation in Yammer. How does this relate back to a SharePoint site and a leadership site? So I'm going to switch over. This is the leadership connection site we saw earlier. And if I go down here, I have this leadership conversations web part. And I want to call out a couple of things that we can do with that web part. That web part, by the way, enables you to post to Yammer, enables you to like, enables you to reply online. It's much more interactive than the previous highlights web part that we used to have. So I'm here in editing mode as someone who can edit this page. I'm going to click on Edit Web Part. Just want to show a couple ways that this can work, and you can imagine how this can be used in your organization. So in this case, this conversation is showing things from a group. I've chosen a group, the leadership group, and I've chosen four conversations to show. If I click on here, I can see that I can choose everything that a particular user has posted. I can choose things by topics, or essentially tags within Yammer. Or I can show the individual user's home feed. So I have a lot of different options in terms of how I can use this web part. If on a leadership site like this, I have it assigned to a group and assigned to the leadership group. You can imagine if you had employee services like a travel team or an HR team, you might have it assigned to their group. And you can also see things like if you had a campaign, like a giving campaign, people sharing information about that campaign, like what they're doing as a team to volunteer. You might ask them all to tag their posts with a particular tag, and then you could use topics, for example, to show all of those giving campaign items across the organization. I think this really helps to illustrate how we can bring the content that you have in SharePoint, targeted at employee engagement, together with the conversations that you can enable within Yammer. And within that, I'm going to actually turn it over to DC, who's going to show us how to build up this type of site. So, DC.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason. I just wanted to have a quick preamble before I go backstage, show you how actually it's done. So the idea of employee engagement is not that different from actual personal conversations. It's a few simple truths. You want to be likable. You want to be trustworthy. You want to have build trust between the two people having a conversation. And you want to have an experience that is relevant. You want to be, when I speak to one of you guys, I want to talk about something relevant. Hopefully all of this is relevant to you, so you are engaged with me. So what we want to do is parlay these aspects of conversation into a web-based experience that serves as a leadership experience or an employee engagement experience for all of your users in your organization. So to that end, the scenario that I'm setting up right now is, yeah, we've seen this beautiful leadership connection site that was shown by Andy some time ago, and it looks nice. Imagine the scenario where the feedback from the president is, hey, this looks good, but it's time for a refresh. I want something a little bit more dense. I want dense content on the page, the home page of my site. I want a lot more news showing up, and just recently, I've become very engaged with our community on Twitter, and I want that to be a part of this experience as well. And our imaginary friend, Jordan Miller here, is going to now take up the challenge as a senior writer of the communication staff. He's going to build out this experience and make sure that he impresses the president right now. And what we are trying to do is enable that experience, bring the power of the platform to that corp communications person, and deliver success for them. So let's see. So you have the site, and the task is to go create a copy of this, update it, and make it the way the admin wants. I mean, the president wants. I'm going to go back to the site pages. Essentially, this is a list of all the pages in here, and you could just make a copy of this home page by, copy to. And in interest of time, I've already made a copy, and here, there's a new page, new home. So what we're going to do is continue editing this page, and this is not a web part I want anymore. I'm just going to remove this, OK. And because my president wanted denser content, let's go explore what's possible in SharePoint today. And hey, look, there is this thing called the vertical column that basically lets you add more content to your entire modern page, having a wider presence and more content. And the president wanted Twitter information. And let's see, let's go set up Twitter in here. And that's a full feed of Twitter information that goes in here. And I like Satya. Did I get that right? No? Anyway, let's keep it contoso for now. So the other web part that's very useful for engagement is the news web part. Clicked on the wrong thing. Delete this image out. So making room for the news web part. So I am going to add a news web part in here. And as you can see, the news web part has a lot of options. And one of the cool things with the news web part is the multiple layouts that are supported. So what this allows you is to have more than one news web part on the home page. So you have different news experiences that can be configured to each web part. For example, this one is pointing to news from this site. And further down, I'm going to add another news web part. that can now cater to a different, maybe a different lane, and then I'm selecting a few other sites from which I want news showing up in my leadership site. So this essentially helps with having denser content focused on news on, for the end user's experience. So one of the things you might notice here is the kicker text with the rectangle color brackets in here. This essentially is what embellishes news articles to be from an authoritative source. What the feature that we recently shipped is called the organizational news setting. So essentially, as an administrator, you can set up sites to be authoritative source of news. And when those news articles show up in web parts like this, or in the SharePoint start page, or in the mobile app, there is a kicker that anoints it to be the authoritative news. And this, in a way, is sort of building trust with the end user, where when they are reading news, they know it's coming from an authoritative source, and they can trust the content that's delivered through the news mechanism. And another important aspect of having news systems is also the veracity of news. So how do you make sure that news that gets published follows branding guidelines, and making sure it uses the right assets and the content is right? And there are several systems that we have put together in the product that help with that. So the first one is setting up what's known as page approvals. So you can go through this experience. So I'm back to the site pages library in here, and you can set up what's known as a page approval for this site library. What this means is, when I'm done setting this up, is you've anointed one or two people who are the editors of the Leadership Connection site, who get to sign off on news that's created by a bunch of the content creators in that organization. And one other aspect of news is the way that it can be made a lot more relevant to the end users. And an important aspect of that is making sure that news that surfaced to you is actually more relevant. And we do that with a system called the audience targeting. And it's also an easy way to set up. You basically, from the site pages library, you go to the library settings. And right there, there is an audience targeting settings that gets you to a place where you can just enable audience targeting. In the interest of time, I'd already done it, and doing that gesture automatically adds an audience column to the site pages library. So what I'm going to do now is pick up this news article and easily add an audience to this. And boom, it's saved, and it automatically reflected here. And what this means is users who are not part of this group will not actually see this news. And you can actually see that right now when you're on this page. Basically, this news, there is no news about the that single page has disappeared from this feed. So audience targeting, when effectively instrumented and used throughout the site, what it helps with is making sure the news that is surfaced to your end users is the most relevant at that point of time. So now that we have set up these processes in place, when another user is about to begin the journey of creating a content, so you begin the journey with creating a page, and what you can see there is you have templates that are automatically saved in the site that lets you get started off with a structure for the news which reflects the branding for the organization or the personal preferences of the executive whose site that is you are running. So making sure that is a seamless experience and a unified experience is achieved with having templates. So I'm going to begin the journey by clicking on this template, and something else happened. OK, create a page. Once I've created a page, I want to change this background image. And what you can see here is there is a library of assets being displayed with the name your organization. So essentially, this is a feature that lets admins configure a library, a site library, site page assets library, which serves as the central repository of all branded assets that should be made part of the pages and news that are being created by your communications team. So you have it available when you are in the process of editing, and you can just pick any approved image from this. And this, again, helps with the branding and content alignment across the content that's being published in the site. So now we've seen the scenarios around how systems are set up for engaging with users, rich content, denser content on the page, having relevant content. And we also want to make sure that the content on these sites are also reaching the audiences wherever they are. And to that end, when you're on a leadership connection site, there is the news roll-up that shows up all of this news. There is also the news that shows up in your home site. So the tenant branding on the top left here always could point to your home site, and clicking on that, it takes you to the home site, which again is a source of news for the users of your organization, and you have news showing up there. And right next to it is the SharePoint start page, which also rolls up news. And a lot of our users start their journey, start their getting back to work process with this, and all of the company news shows up here. The last piece of demo that I want to do is now that you've done all of these things, how do I know how well the site is doing? And an important part of closing the loop here is getting the usage information back into the hands of the curators of the site so they know how to do better the next time around. So I'm going to quickly get to this part here. And in the site contents experience, there is a site usage, a new site usage experience that's much denser and nicer than before that you've seen. And essentially, you can see the unique viewers, the site visits, tabbed by the last 7 days, 30, 90 days. This is the heat map of the site traffic. And this essentially lets us know when is the best time to publish news. And a future feature that you're working on called as page scheduling is going to help you leverage the data that you capture from here so you can target the posting of news at appropriate times. And you can see in the popular platforms, mobile is a key scenario. And I'm going to bring Andy back on stage to show us the mobile experience of SharePoint News. And you can also see the list of pages with the most unique users and the most viewed users. This kind of helps you understand what are the kind of news that end users consume more and what's more relevant. With that, Andy again.
Thanks, DC. OK, very quickly, last demo, and then I'm going to wrap up. Here's the SharePoint mobile app. If you all are familiar with this and use this, I'm in the Find experience here. This allows me to quickly get access back to content I've looked at. It gives me access to frequent sites I'm using, people that I work with, and recent files. So a great experience to get back to content as well as to find content using search. You'll notice here also we have a home icon. This allows me direct access to that same home site that I showed you earlier. So here's the landing in our demo tenant. I've got my news here, my stream web part, Twitter, Yammer. So I've got basically all of the things that I was able to show you earlier. In addition, if I take open up the menu, I also have access to the mega menu, and that will give me the ability to go to the Leadership Connection site that we also showed. So building that experience right into the mobile app. And then finally, if I want to go back, a last thing for employee engagement is SharePoint News. So this gives me an indicator on the bottom left hand that there's a new news post. And if I go in there, I see that organizational news from Contoso News. I can scroll through and consume this content. It gives me a fast and easy way to get up to date when I'm on the go from my phone. So that's the last demo, and then just wrap up with a thanks and a quick action plan. As you've heard through several of the sessions, one of the calls to action we would have is move to SharePoint Modern. We've built the capabilities in terms of experience, the capabilities in terms of the system, and now with the introduction of home sites, we think we're ready to power all of the sites and portals on your modern intranet. And everything, again, that we showed here is out-of-box capabilities. You can extend that with rich SPFX platform and through the partner ecosystem. The second is to create employee engagement experiences across SharePoint, Yammer, and Stream. I hope you saw today that there's a number of ways you can bring those experiences together. There's a number of scenarios that can really help you to engage your employees using those products. And then finally, get inspired and accelerated with the SharePoint Lookbook. If you haven't seen the Lookbook, I think we've got copies of it at our booth. It's also online. We'll be updating that as we get new design capabilities, and that's a great resource for you. So thank you very much. Appreciate your time this morning. I hope you have a great rest of your show. And we ran a little over, so we'll take questions over here to allow for the next speakers if anybody has questions. Thank you very much. Have a great show.